Welcome to the Recovery Cast, brought to you by Hills and Rangers Private.
Hello and welcome to the Recovery Cast, proudly brought to you by Hills and Rangers Private. My name is Oliver and I'm a former alcoholic and addict now in recovery. The Recovery Cast is a podcast created by people in recovery from alcoholism and addiction for people in recovery from alcoholism and addiction. This podcast is meant as a support tool for those in recovery. Everyone who participates in the podcast is in an active recovery program. We are not affiliated with any one recovery methodology and will focus on a variety of different types of recovery, including 12-step recovery, otherwise known as Alcoholics Anonymous and Narcotics Anonymous, and things like Smart Recovery, Celebrate Recovery, Recovery Dharma, Cognitive Behavioural Therapy, and more. And a quick disclaimer, this podcast is intended to be informative. A podcast alone cannot support your sobriety and recovery, so we suggest it only as one component of a daily recovery routine. For more information on what recovery is, please go to www.rehab.melbourne. Now, Alexis, how are you going today?
Hi, I'm plodding along just fine, thank you. How are you?
I think I'm the same. My voice is starting to come back. I'm enjoying this nice husky, docile tones of my voice on this episode, so we'll just go with that. Cool. Perfect. All right. Do you want to read? Let's read the JFT. We're on November the 28th.
JFT. Okay, great. So today's just for today is being ourselves. To be truly humble is to accept and honestly try to be ourselves. Basic text, page 36. Humility is a puzzling concept. We know a lot about humiliation, but humility is a new idea. It sounds suspiciously like groveling, bowing, and scraping. But that's not what humility is at all. True humility is simply acceptance of who we are. By the time we reach a step that uses the word humbly, we have already started to put this principle into practice. The fourth step gives us an opportunity to examine who we really are, and the fifth step helps us accept that knowledge. The practice of humility involves accepting our true nature and honestly being ourselves. We don't have to grovel or abase ourselves, nor must we try to appear smarter, wealthier, or happier than we really are. Humility simply means we drop all pretense and live as honestly as we can. Just for today, I will allow knowledge of my true nature to guide my actions. Today, I will face the world as myself.
Cool. What do you think?
Oh, that's a really good one. Especially like in my case and in my recovery, and I feel like a lot of people would be able to relate to this as well. I most certainly had the idea that I was absolutely worthless. I had no value. I was a stain on society. And, you know, that I just had nothing to contribute to the world whatsoever. And my ego would be like, well, I don't want to contribute anything anyway. But really deep down, like I felt like I just felt like I couldn't cope, you know, and I had nothing to give. And all I did was take, and it left me feeling with a lot of guilt and shame. Going through my step work, though. Sorry, what were you saying?
No, I was just saying totally. I agree with that.
Yeah,
and after you know, taking these mind-altering substances for so many years, you know, my view of myself and the world wasn't exactly really a reflection of what, you know, was real of reality. And I was just thinking, you know, this is obviously a fourth step thing and a fifth step thing, which for the uninitiated is 4, we made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves, and 5, we admitted to God, TM, to ourselves and to another human being the exact nature of our wrongs. And I mean, like, besides all that stuff, when we get, you know, clean, we get sober, we're in recovery, whatever you want to call it, we stop doing the things that we used to do. And I certainly did a lot of things that were morally wrong and questionably appropriate. And now that I'm not doing that anymore, I actually have a better and sort of clearer conscience. And so I even that, it's not just this becoming, like having humility. It's more just I've actually cleaned my side of the street and I have nothing to be ashamed of now. However, I am also a little bit more humble than I was. So anyway, you were saying,
I agree with that.
in your through doing the steps, you were saying something about that.
Yeah, sorry. Through doing like my step work, I was able to, like, just as the reading says, like truly examine who and what I became as an addict, and something that we were touching on yesterday as well. It allowed me to see the build up to my addiction in my behavior. It wasn't just me using the drug; it was my behavior that was causing me a hell of a lot of strife and pain. Looking at the things that I did in order to get by, I hurt a lot of other people. Most of all, I hurt myself. I put myself in situations where I allowed my body to be abused, and not only by myself but other people, just because I knew that at the end of it I would be able to get on. And in my mind at the time, it was a worthy sacrifice. If I could just sit there and I could just go through that motion, at the end of it, like, to put it really blankly and bluntly, like, my pipe would be filled up, and I had to also do a lot of like work on forgiving myself for that sort of thing. And like, you can't forgive yourself if you don't accept yourself for what you've done and who you were, and I found that recovery has really allowed me to look at myself without judgment, but I have had to have a mentor, a sponsor. If anyone who is unsure what that means, in NA and AA, we usually have a sponsor who takes us through recovery. The way that they were taken through recovery was through their sponsor, and they pretty much just guide you and show you the way through the steps. My sponsor was incredibly loving and incredibly understanding. And she was able to really, help me right size myself in a way where it didn't shock me. And I wasn't consumed by guilt, but I was able to honestly examine what I had become and what I was going to do to never end up that way again, so.
Yeah.
What about you? What do you think, Ollie?
Well, there's so much to unpack there.
Yeah.
I just looked at myself through doing the steps. My sponsor it's the same. I had a sponsor who was a mentor, someone that I could call and say, I am struggling, or I did this and I feel like this, and he would say, well, the reason you feel this way is because you did that, and he would show me and help me be responsible for my actions, which was sometimes very difficult, but it was that growth that I was willing to go through. And through doing the steps, particularly step 4 and 5, were great for me because I actually had no idea who I was when I came into recovery. I thought one thing, I was another, and the reality is that I was really different to who I thought I was. And I had this scathing view of myself, this scathing view of the world, and also, as you said before, when we were chatting about this reading, a huge ego and very low self-esteem. I had to do the steps, and really the steps are a great way, in my experience, for me to have a look at the nature of myself and who I was and who I want to be and how I'm going to get there. So I looked at myself and I worked out that I was, and I've shared this heaps, that I was and I still am controlling, and I want things to go my way. I want everything to be under my control. And what I had to work out was, first, I had to, instead of, controlling the outside and external things was one thing, but actually I had to accept those external things. And part of one of the things that I had to accept as well was who I am. And growing up with ADHD, horrendous, underdiagnosed ADHD, I think a lot of people who are dealing with addiction or alcoholism, for me, my using and my addiction was a symptom of how I felt, and how I felt was greatly affected by my struggles growing up with ADHD, and always feeling like I didn't belong, and always feeling like I was wrong or worse than other people, or there was something wrong with me. I had to accept that, okay, I've got ADHD. I will go around the house and I will leave heaps and heaps of tasks half finished. I will make a mess and tidy it up halfway. I will be unorganized. I will be forgetful. But then on the same token, I also have to accept that I am incredibly creative and I'm incredibly talkative, and I have this communication, this linguistic ability that, to be honest with you, has helped me have a career in teaching and in making this podcast and in performing as an entertainer and a musician. So there are hardships, but there are also serious advantages, and I just have to accept that that's who I am. And I've examined who I am. Yeah. I realize that I have to accept the external things around me. Some things I can't control. And I have to learn to not be fearful of things that I can't control. And, sometimes I have to sit in the burning house, like that meme of that dog that's sitting at the table in the burning house. This is fine. Yeah. I have no problem with my reality right now,
Yeah.
And
I can relate.
This is fine. It is fine. It may not be fine, but it will be fine. And Oliver, just relax, mate.
Just chill.
Yeah.
Just chill. Just breathe.
Yeah. And I'm able to be myself, and it sounds like you are too. I did things. Yeah. I'm not proud of them. Things happened. I'm not proud of them. They happened, and you know what?
Yeah.
I'm here today because they happened, and I've had this spiritual awakening because of the pain caused by those things. And
absolutely.
If I had a big red button here that was like this magic button that could then restart my life and change it the way I wanted it to be, I wouldn't touch the button. I would stay exactly as I am.
I've had this thought, and I've had this conversation with someone before as well. Like, would I change anything? And there's I don't know. Like, it's a curious one to think about. Like, I feel so grateful for everything that I have learned and how I have grown, and the woman that I have become and am becoming. But then when I think about a lot of the pain and everything like that, it's like, oh, I don't know. I wouldn't wish that on anyone, I would not wish that hurt on anyone. But at the same time, I wouldn't be here without it. So it's a tricky one. It's a very, very good question. It's a tough one for me to answer. I'm like, I don't know. I like a good shortcut, If I could get there without having if I could get here without having all that trauma, then I would love to, but it's just not possible. You need that.
We can't.
I think I had to go to that place to get to this one. I really truly do.
And as they say, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change. I can't change anything. Sorry, I can change myself, and that's the power to change the thing, or the courage to change the things I can. So we're going to talk more about this after the break. Let's have a quick break.
You're listening to the Recovery Cast by Hills and Rangers Private. Now playing daily on iTunes, Spotify, and YouTube. For more shows, visit us at www.rehab.melbourne.
All right, so you're on the Recovery Cast with Oliver and Alexis, and I was just reading this just for today. I will allow knowledge of my true nature to guide my actions. Today, I will face the world as myself. What does that mean for me? The knowledge of my true nature. I am just a bloke with a set of experiences, and I now know through my self-examination and getting honest with myself that I'm incredibly controlling and fearful and selfish. Knowledge of my true nature to guide my actions. Well, I'm aware of those things now, so I can act accordingly. And when something comes up, I have to keep in the back of my mind that that's my default state. Unfortunately, even though I'm clean or sober, I am still like that a little bit. And you know what? I just then have to try and counteract that. So, you know, whether it's a small thing like I bought my mum and my partner dinner at a nice restaurant the other night, rather than making my mum pay for it, which I have done for, you know, nearly 30 years of being selfish.
Yeah.
I've actually been like, done something nice, and there was no expectation of any kind of, you know, compensation for that. And it was it's just something I do. You know, there are people driving around Melbourne with spare tires on their cars that I've changed for them on the side of the road, you know. Hopefully they've gotten their proper tires fixed by now. But you know, I do those random acts of kindness. What other things? What have you done to have your knowledge of your true nature guide your actions, Alexis?
What have I done? My defects, my main ones are I'm incredibly self-righteous, unkind, and like straight up, like I'm vengeful, you know. I have lived on the attack for a really long time. And I have always had this thing in my head that I don't have enough to give to anyone. You know, I have to just take as much as I can, and I have to keep that really safe, and I have to hoard it, whatever the resource is, even if it's just energy, my own physical energy. I have to like hoard that to death, lest it be taken away from me, and somebody else end up with it, you know. And like that's a really interesting one, because the pure like I would never help anyone for anything. I do nothing for nobody. And just the pure act alone of sponsoring my two sponsees has been transformative. Giving back to people in the fellowship that I'm a part of has been transformative. Giving back in a way where like I don't feel drained, because I know that in order to keep what I have, I've got to give it back. And it's something that I don't even take into account anymore, you know? And then there's also small things, you know, like when I see seeing like I've been homeless, you know, I've been in some pretty bad states, and there's a few specific homeless people that I see around where I live, and I whenever I see them, I buy them sandwiches and things like that, you know. And like I don't really like talking about that. I would much rather keep that to myself, because I don't do it in order to get brownie points. My heart goes out to these people. I can see that they're mentally unwell, and I know that there's not a lot of help for them. And even if there is help for them, you know, it's incredibly stigmatized, and you know, it breaks my heart. But like I spent my whole life being incredibly selfish and ungrateful, and I've taken a lot, you know. Like I go out of my way to not shoplift anymore, because God, I was a good shoplifter. Yeah, I could walk out with hundreds of dollars of things, and was never really ever caught. And I know I could still do that, but I make the choice not to, because that's acting on old behavior. Yeah, you know.
Well, you have this knowledge of that, and it guides your actions, and you make the decision.
Yes. Yeah.
You make the
like,
decision. That's a bit of step 3 as well. You make the decision to turn your will over. So
Yeah,
my
absolutely.
will says
Absolutely.
shoplift, and my higher powers will says don't do that.
Don't
And
do that.
I
Yeah.
ask myself,
Yeah.
I ask myself, and it's not even just asking a higher power anymore. It's actually like I have a little bit more of a moral compass.
Yeah, you can trust yourself now, right? I agree. I'm at a point in my recovery as well where I've really worked on the relationship that I have with myself, and like by no means is it like ever going to be amazing and perfect. Like I'm still incredibly hard on myself, but I trust myself to make the right decisions now. You know, for a long time, like I didn't know what to do. I knew I couldn't breathe without really asking my sponsor if it was okay to breathe, because I did not trust myself to make a healthy or functional decision in my life. But thanks to therapy and thanks to the program that I work, I'm able to now trust the moral compass I have within myself. Yeah.
We find a new way to live.
Absolutely. And it really, that's something that blows my mind, and it is something that I am grateful for.
And that's
not who I was at all.
Yeah. That's like, what does recovery mean to me? It literally just means recovery. So I recover as it says, myself. I recover myself.
Yeah.
I face the world as my true self, my true nature underneath, and without that addictive behavior that I used to suffer from. I am now actually undiluted by that illness. I'm truly I'm not perfect. I'm not saying I'm perfect, but at least I know who I am. I know who I am now.
Yeah. There's something that's really big for me in this area as well. I mentioned before, like I can be incredibly hard on myself. Working on having a loving and kind relationship with myself is crucial, because if I can't have that relationship with myself, I certainly can't have it with other people. And like I something I learned in therapy, actually dialectical behavior therapy, it's that I ought to practice being kind instead of being right. Something one of my group therapists said to me one time.
Wow.
And I work really hard. I have that written on a vision board in my room, and I have carried that quote with me for about 5 years now, and it always comes back to me at many different times that I have to practice being kind instead of being right. We don't need to be right all the time. It's okay to be wrong. Yeah.
Well, it's not even about being right or wrong anymore.
No, it's not. It's definitely not.
It's about being accountable and being a human being,
Yeah, and being compassionate and seeing people for their humanness as well.
So what I always try and finish these episodes, I'm giving you the 411 on what I've worked out how to do.
Yeah, cool.
I issue our listeners with a challenge, and that sounds like a great challenge to try for our listeners today. If you're listening to this and it doesn't matter where you are, whether you're in rehab, you're in recovery, you got 30 days, 60 days, 30 years, do something to accept yourself and just sit with your feelings and say, well, this is where I am in my life now. It has been the way it's been up to here, and I don't know where it's going to go, and everything will change and nothing is constant, and that is okay. That's my challenge.
Yeah, it is. It's okay. Love yourself, flaws and all.
Yeah, do that. Do that self-care. Have a bubble bath with some candles or something.
Yeah. Oh my God, some Lush bath bombs. Get those going.
We don't advertise for companies that create bath bombs, but I love them as well. So yeah, there you go. I'll send that company an invoice for the plug. And
absolutely,
do that self-care. Don't beat yourself up over anything, and just be yourself, and even if there's always more to be learned and more to be revealed, and it will be, and that's okay, because I believe that we're put on this earth to learn and to experience, and I'm doing a great job of learning and experiencing and growing. Yeah. So I reckon we should
Evolution, baby.
evolution. Exactly. I reckon that's a great point to leave it there. You know, be kind to yourself and love yourself. And in the meantime, that's episode number 3. And I believe this is actually episode number 3 with you and episode number 50 of all time. So we made it. We did a good job. Thank you for listening to another episode of the Recovery Cast with Oliver and Alexis. We will see you on another episode soon. If you have any questions, please jump on www.rehab.melbourne or call 1-800-422-711. Thank you. Have a great day. Love yourself and cheers.
Thank you for listening to the Recovery Cast. For more, visit us at www.rehab.melbourne.